Good evening. Welcome to End Your Day Stronger. We've got a pretty cool segment planned for you tonight. And as you would know, this week's theme is when you're up against the impossible. And we all face impossible situations in life all the time, honestly, if we were to be honest. And I'm just so grateful that God in His Word says what is impossible for man is possible with God. In other words, if we don't see an outcome, that's not going to stop God from working in our lives. So I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Aimee Deley, and her and her husband have graciously accepted an invitation to come and share a little bit of their story. Now, Aimee, you recently, in the past few months, have experienced kind of a roller coaster where there were times where you guys were thinking, like, how are we going to get through this? What's going to go on? So I'm going to stop talking, and why don't you just share a bit of your story with us?
Okay, so I'm going to start at the end of my pregnancy. I was pregnant with our fourth baby, and we were, what we thought we were doing was being excited to welcome our newest addition, because in the past of my other children, I'd had them quite early.
Right.
So, and we were thinking any day the baby should be arriving, and on the Tuesday of my situation was scheduled to be induced or have the baby meet at the hospital and do our thing. So yeah, so we were super excited to be welcoming our new baby. We were here on a Sunday at church, and we noticed that morning on our 3-year-old daughter, large size looking bruise, and that's all we took it as. And
right.
After church, I took a second look at it, and that afternoon, and it had turned from a bruise-looking appearance to now wet and kind of liquid coming from it. We didn't know what to think. We went to took her to the hospital in Beaver Lodge. They didn't know what it was either. Called it a burn, but I don't remember branding her anytime.
Right.
Yes, and so anyways, we stayed in the Beaver Lodge Hospital a couple of days. They predicted she would get better with some antibiotics.
Yeah.
And as the days went on, they started to feel that they did not know what this was. And
it just wasn't getting any better.
She wasn't getting any better, and the wound itself was getting worse. They discussed the possibility if the infection got into her blood, it could eventually be something that was fatal if it wasn't handled properly. And you want to trust, say, the doctor, because I'm not a doctor, and I don't even try to be one. I try to stay off Google, but you want him to tell you what's wrong. And when he's looking at me going, I have no idea what's wrong with your baby at the time, I didn't know how to take that. And
when the expert tells you, like, I don't know what, like, how did that feel at that moment?
If he doesn't know, and every 7 o'clock shift that came, a new doctor came, and he didn't know either. So you're thinking, okay, maybe the next guy will know, and the next guy will know. And there was there was nothing for us to do so for 3 days, you just sat there thinking, when does this end? What's the answer? And how does this gaping hole in the side of my daughter, how is it going to be fixed?
Right.
We went to Grand Prairie, and they were great. We got to pick toys out even through COVID. She got to have toys, and a little bit better of a situation than the small Beaver Lodge Hospital. But even those guys, he did a whole family history, asking us everything. We've went through every possibility of skin rashes that we could, and after 2 days there, that expert told me he didn't know what was wrong with her, so we're headed to Edmonton. And I felt like we kind of started at square one again there, because every expert that they brought in a burn specialist, and he said, that's not a burn. Yeah. An infections specialist, it's not an infection. We talked about spider bites, flesh-eating disease. We talked about it all, and they didn't, at the very end, I guess person that spoke to us was a plastic surgeon, and he said, I don't know what that is, but I'll fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was our first week into the ordeal. Still not an answer, but what I was thankful for at that time, it was finally 2 o'clock in the morning after we'd been flown out to Edmonton and talked to 5 different doctors. Maybe we didn't have an answer, but someone could help us.
Yeah. What was going on between you and God in those moments? Like,
through all the times that I definitely prayed nonstop, but I know, because I hear it every Sunday, and I know what I'm supposed to do is trust that what we're in, we're supposed to be in, and accept that. But
it's one thing to hear it. It's another thing to actually practice and do it, right? That's hard.
Yes, and I feel like God probably even doubted or knew that when I'd say, okay, I'm trusting you, and he's probably like, no, you're not. Because I said, I know I'm supposed to trust you, but I just don't get this. I just don't get this. And I had kind of wanted to, what I had planned out for my life was to have a peaceful baby, arrives right before school starts.
Of course, yeah.
Now I'm sitting here in Edmonton, 38 weeks pregnant, praying that wasn't just a contraction, Yeah. So there was many things that I probably can't think of right now, but along the road that I specifically asked for it.
Yes.
My daughter going into surgery, which is what they told us she would be getting a skin graft.
Right.
Which I'm told is, for an adult, extremely painful. And he said what they would do is remove the skin from the other hip. And he said, keep in mind, this is very painful, a long recovery, and we might need to keep you guys for another week. And I thought, okay, but I'm due to have a baby, but we just had to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And fast forward, her going into surgery, I remember I sat in the waiting room. We were told it'd be like a 6-hour surgery. And my son had surgery previous to that, and I remember watching him get put under. And I hated the look of it. They put the mask on and they fight and struggle. And I sat out in the room. My husband went in and I said, I specifically said, please, God, don't let her be scared. Please don't let her be scared. And a minute later, my husband walks out and I said, was she scared? And he said, no, they actually just put the medication through an IV. She didn't do a thing.
There you go. Yeah.
And I thought, thank you. Like one small thing I asked for, to me, it's not small.
Yeah.
To someone else, it might be small in the gist of things, but I went, what?
Well, to a mom, who's looking after her little girl and afraid for her being afraid, that's a big deal.
Yeah, and 45 minutes later, the doctor walked through the room and said, we're done. And both Cody and I are thinking, how?
Yeah.
You just did it. And he said, she thankfully had enough skin that I slit the sides, pulled the wound up, and I sealed it over. And we couldn't believe it. We could not believe we were prepared for 6 to 8 hours.
And a skin graft.
And they just closed it.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, and then said, we'll keep her overnight, and if she's well overnight, we're going home tomorrow.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and then what happened after that? You guys got home?
And then a couple days later, we had another baby.
Who should have came?
Yes, 2 weeks before that, we had thought that he would have been here, and he came, I guess I don't even know how to explain that, but 12:45 p.m. I had the baby in Hythe, Alberta, and drove and had the baby in 1 hour.
Yeah, but 1 hour labor, like that's the way to do it. It
was cool, yeah.
And so I have a question for you. How has your perspective changed for those situations when they come?
Huge. I've been through some weird things in my life before, and over and over again, I keep telling myself, why did you worry so much? Why? All those small little things, we look back now, I'm like, that's unexplainable. It's been a month and a half, and the swab never came, but nobody knew what was wrong with her. And then we'll just live the rest of our lives and focus on the good of that. I will never again take for granted a cup of coffee in the morning with healthy children. Like, that was one thing that I looked back and I said, I swear I will enjoy every moment from here on out.
That's beautiful. And I think that's a great place to end it here tonight. And I just want to say to you and Cody, like, thank you so much for coming and sharing this part of your story with us. And it's just so, I don't know, it helps strengthen my faith to hear a story like this, because I know now that you guys, from here on out, your faith will be stronger when you go through something.
Keep going, yeah.
Because you'll be able to look back on this time where, okay, God's hand was here, and He totally got us through it. And I think at times in my life where He did that. And what we want to leave you guys with at home tonight is, you know what? Maybe you're in an impossible situation right now, but God is very much involved. He's with you, and He's got a plan for it. And it is good. The outcome is good. You just might not see it at this moment. So God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.